Hello dear viewers, listeners and subscribers. Welcome to Mystura, a channel devoted to strange, inexplicable and mysterious events, beings, phenomena and places in Poland and Central and Eastern Europe. Today's video will be different from the ones you have seen so far, and it initiates what I hope to become a steady additional feature, if you like, of this channel, namely interviews with researchers of the strange, the paranormal, the inexplicable. Although the main activity of this channel will definitely still revolve around videos outlining such strange and inexplicable things in Poland and in CE, the idea is that every now and then I will meet with individuals who devote some chunk or a large chunk of their lives in search of explanations regarding the broadly understood unknown. Sometimes they will do their research in their country of origin. Sometimes they will travel the world, let's say far and wide. At times, it depends, of course, they will be full, proper videos, which will be either pre-recorded or streamed live. At some other times, just like for instance today, they will be in a form of a podcast with audio and probably like some images. The format will depend on what has been agreed with an interviewee, of course, as well as their mastery of English and some other factors. My first guest today is Mr. Dany Mackerle from the Czech Republic, the son of the late Ivan Mackerle, famous Czech explorer who has organized numerous expeditions to all continents in search of mysteries. Dany has followed his father's footsteps and continues this fascinating adventure. Down below the video, I included a link to Dany's website, which outlines his, as well as his father's, expeditions. And while the website is in the Czech language, you can translate it using such internet browsers as Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or Safari. Obviously, the quality of the translation will not be perfect, but it will allow more than a glimpse into the life, activities and expeditions of both Ivan and Dany. Hi Dany, it's a pleasure hosting you in the first episode of what I at least hope to be a series of interviews with people whose vivid interest in inexplicable and strange things inspired them to organize expeditions, write books, appear in the media, etc., etc.
Hello, nice to be here.
Before I ask you about your research, could you kindly introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background and how you became interested in exploring the unknown?
My name is Dany Mackerle, and I am the son of the Czech mystery researcher and writer Ivan Mackerle. To tell you the truth, the unexplained is quite intriguing. Things commonly known as mysteries started to interest me a bit more in my later years. I essentially grew up in an environment of uncovering these phenomena, and I saw it as my dad's big hobby, or his kind of job. But otherwise, it passed me by. I had my own life, and then the turning point happened. After the first expedition, which was in the year 1997, that my dad took me on, we went to Austria to search for the mythical creature Worm. I actively participated in the expedition there as a diver. But the biggest turning point came in 1998. That was a major expedition to Madagascar, where we were searching for the man-eating tree Tepe.
Lidožravý strom Tepe a šli jsme hledat.
We went and searched for traces of the Epiornis, an extinct prehistoric bird, which reportedly, according to folklore, used to be seen there until recently.
Thank you, Dany. It really looks like a big adventure, and I'm sure that our viewers, listeners, subscribers will be able to read more about those and probably many more expeditions on your website. You said initially you were not interested in your father's work, and yet once you became an expedition member, you were bitten by the research bug, so to say. So, could you tell us, how did your father, Ivan Mackerle, influence your interest and career in researching mysterious phenomena?
How did my dad influence me? Well, I must say significantly, because I admired his passion for searching and discovering those mysterious phenomena.
Ale hlavně mě ovlivnil tím, že...
But mainly, he influenced me by giving me a glimpse into the adventure of exploring those phenomena. That means both into the past as well as into uncovering some mysterious, undiscovered things, which means that he introduced me to it, and together with him and my friends, we tried to solve that mystery. I think that's probably the greatest thing he could give me.
Takže to bylo takový to asi, myslím, to největší, co mi mohl dát.
And he also influenced me by actively involving me in all our expeditions.
It's such an excellent, wonderful thing that your father was actually able to instill in you that zeal for discovery and expeditions. I think that it is actually thanks to people, to individuals such as him, and of course you as well, that we may in the future discover the truth about, well, at least some aspects of the unknown. And by the way, talking about your father, what do you think is the most significant legacy left by your father, Ivan Mackerle?
Těžko říct, jaký táta zanechal odkaz.
It's hard to say which is the most significant legacy my father has left, but I know what kind of legacy he left as a seeker in search of unveiling those mysteries.
V takové pozici toho odhalování těch záhad, což si myslím, že byl odkaz na Olgoje Chorchoje. To bylo takový táta.
I think it was in relation to the Olgoy Chorchoi. It was like my dad's apple of the eye in terms of mysteries. And he was one of the first, you could say, if not the first, to introduce the Olgoy Chorchoi to the general public, both researchers and ordinary people.
S širokou veřejností záhadologickou i normálních lidí. Takže to byl takový ten asi nejvýznamnější odkaz.
So that was probably the most significant legacy. Otherwise, my dad left a legacy for the next generation in his own style, through his explorations. This means that for all the mysteries he was interested in or expeditions he went on,
tak je důkladně připravoval.
He would prepare thoroughly and didn't just write about mysteries from behind a desk, but always went out into the field and found out as much information as possible.
Well, with a father like this, no wonder that you eventually became interested in those topics as well, right? Could you possibly tell our viewers, listeners, subscribers, what your first expedition was and how it actually came about? Could you provide some details regarding that?
My first expedition was in 1997 to Austria, where we were searching for the legendary worm Tatzelwurm. But for me, the first real expedition, as I've mentioned before, was the expedition to distant Madagascar. Madagascar is roughly the fourth largest island in the world. And at that time, it was a journey into the unknown for me, and I was really looking forward to it.
Na Madagaskar jsme jeli společně.
We went to Madagascar together with my dad and some friends to search for the man-eating tepe tree and look for traces of the elephant bird, which, according to legends, might still be hiding somewhere on the island, and people reportedly used to hear its guttural cries.
Jeho hrdelní skřeky. Ta expedice, myslím, že byla hodně...
I think the expedition was very successful because it was back in the year 1998, when Madagascar wasn't visited as often as it is nowadays.
V současnosti. A bylo to velmi dobré.
It was very adventurous because we actually traveled across Madagascar from north to south and back, making it a truly beautiful expedition, and we made a film about it.
Natočili jsme o tom film, dokonce i televize Prima.
Even TV Prima broadcast a brief segment from our expedition.
Takže to byla
That was truly my number one expedition.
číslo 1.
Wow, that really sounds excellent, fascinating actually, and I hope that our viewers as well would certainly like to see the preview of that one day. But let's talk a bit more about your expeditions. Can you share one of your most memorable experiences from them?
No,
I had quite a lot of experiences, interesting ones.
celkem hodně zajímavých.
I had a lot of, you could say, very strong experiences.
Silných zážitků, ale takový ten asi největší, ten myslím, že byl z Austrálie, když jsme byli.
The biggest one was from Australia, when we were exploring or researching Black Mountain, which is in northern Australia, so it is said that the mountain has its own spirit.
Takže o té hoře se povídá, že ta hora má svého ducha. Je to hora.
The mountain is enormous, composed of many basalt boulders that are as big as a car or a bus, piled on top of each other. We crawled through the mountain, winding our way between the rocks, and could even crawl into the mountain itself, where there's a kind of labyrinth.
Takový bludiště. A domorodci vlastně.
The locals actually told us that people used to get lost there, and even an entire tribe of Aboriginals disappeared there, and that the mountain has its own spirit, or devil, that guards it.
Tu horu střeží.
My dad and I decided to camp by the mountain since we traveled such a long way, so we had to give it a try.
Tak jsme vzali stan. No a
So we took a tent, came to the mountain, set up our tent just 10 meters from the mountain, and it started to get dark. So we sat down and made ourselves some food.
udělali jsme si nějaké jídlo, pak byla tma, tak jsme naslouchali.
Then it was dark, so we listened to the sounds of life in the jungle, which was near the mountain.
Blízkosti té hory. A vlastně tak jsme jako pak usoudili, už byla hodně.
And then it was already late, so we said we would go to bed and have a little snack. So we got into the tent, and suddenly it was quiet. The life of the jungle had hushed.
Slyšet jako, že to ten život té džungle stichnul.
And we heard these dark, hollow footsteps coming from the mountain, heading towards the tent.
Ke stanu.
They were footsteps like those of a large animal, maybe a cow or something similar. And the footsteps were getting closer.
Kroky se blížily.
And they were basically right behind the tent. And we were scared that it was really some animal that couldn't see the tent in the dark and might trample us. So we dashed out of the tent, turned on our flashlights, and I must say, we were out of the tent in about 2 seconds.
Ale jaký bylo naše
But how surprised we were when we saw nothing and didn't hear anyone running away. We shone flashlights around the entire area, and if there had been something there, we would have seen it.
tak bychom to viděli.
So we were a bit scared. After, let's say, 20 minutes, in about a quarter of an hour, suddenly, the life of the jungle started living its own life again. We crawled back into the tent, and I must say, we didn't sleep until morning. And we were glad when we heard in the morning our friends calling us, who came for us by car on the nearby road. Ivan, Dan, where are you? So we were really glad to hear them, and that we could return, and that nothing happened to us. That was one of the biggest experiences I had on any expedition.
Wow, that really does sound a bit scary and actually makes one wonder about what is really going on there. Well, if any of our viewers, listeners and subscribers would like to go there, by any chance, well, you already know what to expect, right? Expect the unexpected, actually. But fascinating and scary as well as your stories sound, they relate to expeditions you undertook in other countries, right? Or even possibly on other continents. But being a Czech, have you actually encountered anything strange or inexplicable in your own country? I understand, of course, that you visited some places in the Czech Republic as well, and I believe that one of those places in the Czech Republic is where apparently it is possible to see or meet or experience ghosts, right? From what you told me before our conversation, before our interview. So could you tell us something about this place and what is actually so strange about it?
Yes, a few years ago, I was interested in a mysterious mill located here in Bohemia, in the Šumava mountains in South Bohemia. The mill is called the Paradise Mill, Rajský mlyn in Czech, and remains forever marked by a bloody, violent act. And the horror of this tragedy is still felt today.
No a ta hruza z této tragédie je tu cítit i dodnes.
In fact, to this day, strong negative energy emanates from the walls here. No one feels comfortable here. Everything here is caused by the triple murder that took place here in 1925. Well, the mill was abandoned for many years, and people started to fear spending the night there as inexplicable things happened, and people were scared, saying that the ghosts of the dead who were murdered in the mill haunted it. You might think we were crazy, but we decided to sleep in the mill during our next trip there. We took some equipment with us for assistance, set up cameras with sensors in the mill's room, and waited through the night to see what would happen. Maybe we would capture something. We started communicating with each other using walkie-talkies, and that was kind of crucial. Well, when nothing was happening for a long time, I started walking around that mill and trying to make contact with some ghost, make some connection. And suddenly, I realized I had a reaction through the radio. It started buzzing. That's when it started to feel weird. And after every question, there was a loud buzz from the radio.
No, myslel jsem si, že je to náhoda, nebo že...
I thought it was a coincidence, or that someone outside was playing a joke on me, so I tuned it to a different frequency. But it happened again. It got to the point where I was gradually changing the frequency, and I did it for every question.
Udělal jsem, že na každou otázku jsem řekl...
I said, let it buzz once for yes and twice for no, so I could know what the answer was.
Jaká je odpověď? No, byli jsme teda z toho trošku...
Well, we were somewhat taken aback and confused because we were asking questions and got yes or no, answers only someone involved in the murder could know.
Kdo musel dobře znát tam tu místní situaci. Pokládali jsme takové otázky.
We asked questions that a normal person couldn't possibly know the answers to.
Nemohli je znát. Tak dokonce jsme...
We even asked if we were in danger or any misfortune, and the answer was no. And our next question was whether there was anyone out there.
Co tam je?
And to our question, if someone there needed help, the answer was yes. I must say it was a very strange and unsettling experience, and colleagues who were filming and were always very skeptical about such things got scared, and we had to leave from there.
Když se můj zážitek konzultoval s člověkem, který se...
When I consulted my experience with a person interested in paranormal phenomena, he told me that it was clear that in that mill there must first be a ritual that actually releases the spirit, because, to put it a bit grandly, the evil is bound there. They have to release it so it can be free, and then there would be peace.
Musí vlastně ho odpoutat, aby byl volnej, a pak vlastně by byl už klid. No.
Well, unfortunately, I never went back there, which I regret, because the mill actually ended up with a different owner. And how it is there now, whether such eerie things still linger, I unfortunately don't know.
Wow, that sounds, my goodness, this sounds so amazing, but also so scary at the same time. Well, of course, yes, I am of a strong conviction that some invisible spiritual entities, both positive and negative, do actually exist on this planet and are really nothing to mess with or about. They are better left alone, actually. But, of course, encountering one must surely be like one hell of an experience. And possibly one day we will also have some irrevocable proof of their existence, well, due to a constant development of technology, for instance, right? With better cameras, better electronic equipment, maybe one day we'll be able to actually prove without any doubt that such phenomena, such forces do exist. But I know that your interest in paranormal phenomena also extends beyond the Czech Republic. And in our private conversation prior to recording this interview, you told me that you have recently returned from Kenya, where you encountered something strange or inexplicable. So could you possibly tell our viewers and listeners what actually it was and how you actually found out about this place?
Ano, máte pravdu, je to pravda. My jsme se letos...
Yes, you are right. It is true. We returned this year from our latest expedition, the most recent one, which was in Kenya. We were searching there for a mysterious island located in the turquoise waters of Lake Turkana. This island is named as South Island on maps, but the local El Molo tribes call it Invitanet, which means the island of no return. So you can probably guess what kind of mystery it will be.
Ostrov bez návratu. Tak asi tužíte.
This island earned its name thanks to legends that have been told about it since time immemorial. They are mostly chilling stories about people who disappeared without a trace on the island.
Jsou to vesměs takové mrazivé příběhy o lidech, kteří na tom ostrově.
So it's no wonder that to this day people consider this island cursed. The first mentions of the cursed island date back to ancient times, when several El Molo tribe families took refuge there and disappeared under mysterious circumstances. But even in recent times, 2 British geologists vanished there under mysterious circumstances.
Zmizli 2 britští geologové.
We decided to visit the island and learn more about this legend. We managed to get there.
Této legendě něco víc. Podařilo se nám vlastně navštívit.
And you can see, or will be able to see, how our expedition turned out in the film that will soon be on our website, but only after the premiere of the film, which will be broadcast on Czech television. So I think you have something to look forward to. It's an interesting legend.
Myslím, že se máte na co těšit, je to zajímavá legenda.
Wow, just wow. This is really incredible. That actually makes the hair on my back stand, and it's not only because of how chilly this story is and how potentially dangerous as well, but also because way back in 1999, my friends and I actually visited Lake Turkana, and we were at the very shore of it. Well, if only I knew back then that something like that existed. And of course, again, my dear viewers, listeners and subscribers, I refer you again to Dany's website, whose address you will be able to find below this video in the description. And let me again remind you that while the website is in Czech, most internet browsers allow translation into quite many languages. Translation which is, of course, definitely imperfect, but should give you a pretty good approximation of the original. So, coming back to what you have told us, Dany, we have some unfortunate ghosts trapped in the Czech Republic. We have some dark forces making people disappear in Kenya, which is absolutely amazing. What are some other of the most notable, if you like, discoveries that you or your father have made?
Já bych neřekl.
I wouldn't say that the things we discovered are the most significant.
My jsme vlastně neobjevili.
We actually didn't discover the specific mystery or thing, you could say. We didn't uncover it, because then it wouldn't be a mystery anymore.
Zajímavějších věcí, ke kterým jsme se přiblížili hodně, bylo, když jsme byli.
But one of the most interesting things we got really close to was when we were in Yakutsk, in the Siberian taiga, looking for submerged big cauldrons, round cauldrons made of an unknown metal and buried in the ground, so big that even the local Yakuts would hide in them from the frost in winter.
Před mrazem. A jedna z domněnek ufologů je, že to jsou pozůstatky.
And one of the ufologists' hypotheses is that these are remnants of spaceships, which came with extraterrestrials and were simply left here.
Trošku malinko jako skeptičtí, ale
we are a little bit skeptical about it, but we actually managed, at least we believe so, to find the locations.
Blízko řeky Olgujdach, to je řeka,
It's near the Olguida River, which is a river that flows through Yakutsk and where these cauldrons are supposed to be submerged. We managed to find two places where the cauldrons should be.
Podařilo se nám to díky bádání ze vzduchu a my jsme vlastně na tom místě.
We managed to do it thanks to aerial research, and we were actually stepping on those boilers at the site, but they were submerged in a kind of pond, and we couldn't bring any evidence because we were waist deep in water and had no way to obtain any evidence or break something off it or to bring some physical evidence.
Nebo aby jsme přinesli vlastně nějaký fyzický důkaz. Myslím, že jsme objevili místo, kde ty kotle by měly.
I think we've discovered the place where the cauldrons should be submerged. We even have their coordinates, so we could go there again.
A na to, aby jsme dokázali, že tam opravdu ty kotle jsou, je třeba mít.
In order to prove that the boilers are really there, it is necessary to have the right equipment with us, which means some pumps that would drain the pond and allow us to reach the place we walked over. And I have to say, when we were stepping on them, they were really huge balls.
Tak opravdu to byly obrovské koule, na kterých jsme stáli.
We were standing on them, and it was clear that they sloped at the edges. Even when we hit them with a stick, there was a hollow sound, so maybe we succeeded.
And again, Ashley, the only thing I can really say about it is amazingly fascinating, and not because of the topic, but also given that the issue of those cauldrons has been on my mind since, well, quite many years ago. I think I read, as far as I remember, in the Flying Saucer Review, an article about them. which, by the way, I later, with the consent of the author, translated also and published in our Polish monthly devoted to the unknown, called Nieznany Świat, which translates to the unknown world. And also together with some friends or acquaintances, we even began regular meetings to start organizing an expedition there, especially given that one of my friends spoke fluent Russian, so it was really very convenient. But it didn't quite pan out, unfortunately, and, well, it looks like your team simply has beat us to it. However, I understand that not all of your expeditions, or those of your father, were solved, and not always any sort of evidence has been found. So, is there any particular mystery that has remained unsolved despite your efforts?
No to je krásná otázka. Samozřejmě.
Well, that's a great question. Of course, there's a specific mystery that, despite our efforts, remains unsolved. I would say that for now, it's probably all of them. Because, as I said, if we provided some evidence about a specific mystery, it would no longer be a mystery, and I think there would be a lot written about it. But solving any mystery entirely, no. Unfortunately, we haven't managed that yet. But maybe one day we will.
Bohužel zatím ještě nepovedlo. Ale třeba se nám to někdy povede.
Well, I wish you, basically I wish really all of us just that, right? That some mystery is solved and brought to light. And as a matter of fact, no matter if its explanation is earthly or otherworldly, and I do agree, by the way, that once an irrefutable proof is presented, it's not a mystery anymore, of course. Well, but then again, what we may lose in the atmosphere of mystery, once this mystery is resolved, we will gain probably in expanding our knowledge. Once the mystery is known to the general public, our knowledge should be expanded, right? Extended. So I believe that it's definitely worth it. Which actually brings me to my next question, namely, in our correspondence prior to this interview, you said that when it comes to strange or unexplained places, you actually prefer those which are not yet known or have not been explored. Could you tell us why this is? Is there any specific allure such places have? If such place is not yet known, also, how do you actually find about it?
No, dávám přednost a radši...
I prefer to visit places or take an interest in things that no one has paid attention to yet, because then you're not influenced by previous research.
Mám to taky radši, že člověk přinese těm lidem jako jeden z prvních o konkrétní věci nějaké informace.
I also like bringing information to people as one of the first in a specific matter. And the attraction is, if I may be a little arrogant, that we will be the first to familiarize the public with that particular mystery. It's hard to find out about new mysteries. It's very difficult. You have to read books, be interested, and be lucky.
To je velmi obtížné, prostě člověk musí pročítat knížky a musí se o to zajímat a musí mít štěstí vlastně, aby se dostal k dále.
To uncover another mystery or a new piece of information about something unexplained, which people don't know much about yet, is difficult. But on the other hand, it's good, because if it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
Kdyby to bylo lehký, tak by to dělali všichni.
Yes, I actually know from my own experience that without some research, without reading books and articles, without watching videos and contacting some people who might be in the know, finding out such things may be, well, a bit difficult. And even if you learn about a specific thing, a specific being, a phenomenon, animal or ancient structure, for instance, you may not necessarily know where exactly they are located. Frequently, however, such information is based more on, let's say, the accounts of apparent eyewitnesses or even on hearsay than on any actual tangible fact. So how do local legends and cultural beliefs influence your research and findings in that regard?
Of course, legends can somewhat influence our perspective on a particular thing, but I think we're realists and we always form our own opinion about the place or situation we're going to, and we try not to be influenced by any legends.
A děláme si vlastně vždycky na tu záhadu nebo na to místo, kam jedeme, svůj vlastní názor a snažíme se, aby jsme nebyli...
However, those legends add that bit of flavor, that spice of mystery, which is absolutely amazing.
K tomu dávají takovou, dá se říct, takovou tu šťávu, takový to koření té záhady, což je úplně úžasný.
And what personal insights or philosophies guide you in your exploration? Could you tell us a few words about that?
Při našich výzkumech máme...
During our research, I think that my friends and I have a simple philosophy. Enjoy the adventure and the journey.
Samozřejmě zjistit o té záhadě co nejvíc.
Of course, try to learn as much about the mystery as possible, but above all, enjoy the experience. And for that, you need to be a bit of a dreamer. I think that's what we are.
A myslím, že to my jsme.
Yes, I know that. I know that. The whole topic is actually such that those, let's say, sober-thinking people whose feet are more anchored on the ground, let's say, may actually not understand that drive that pushes us to research and travel, right? But having said that, we ourselves, as travelers, as researchers, we need to, at least every now and then, to get down on the ground. And what I mean by that especially is the preparation phase, right? Preparation is quite an important factor whenever going, whether it's Europe or outside of Europe, wherever it is in the world. We need to think clearly about many things. So my next question is actually, how do you prepare for an expedition? What kind of research goes into planning these trips, etc., etc.? If you could tell us a few words about that, please.
You could say that for each expedition, we prepare in basically the same way. The preparation generally takes at least a year. It's about gathering information about the particular mystery we want to pursue.
Záhadě, za kterou chceme jet, a dál vlastně naplánovat vše, aby...
We plan everything to have as few problems as possible with the research. Of course, before any expedition, it's necessary to study things that can be studied beforehand. This means if we're going to look for some animal, we have to consult with a cryptozoologist or someone from the zoo or someone who knows the situation well, and so on. So, as I said, we gather a lot of information from everywhere.
S člověkem třeba ze zoologické zahrady nebo člověkem, který je znalý dané situace a tak, takže, jak říkám, sbíráme hodně informací všude možně.
Of course, we visit libraries and browse the internet to see if there is any information there.
Po internetu samozřejmě, jestli tam nebudou nějaké informace.
We write to colleagues abroad to see if they know anything about a mystery we are interested in, and so on.
O kterou se zajímáme, jestli něco nevědí a tak.
So this is the kind of preparation, which really is not very simple, and sometimes, in fact, takes more than a year, because before you get some answers, and before you have sufficient information to make sure that you can go on that expedition without problems, it takes a while.
Za tou záhadou můžete jet bez problémů, tak to chvilku trvá.
Well, obviously, especially with things such as these, where there are so many skeptics, so many scientists who also tend to negate or ridicule these things, tend to strive or undermine, negate, etc., etc. With those things, it's of course quite important to prepare and gather as much information as possible. So what methods do you actually use to collect evidence during your expeditions?
I think I have partly replied to that before. The methods we use involve first checking online, like almost everyone does, to see if there is anything written about the specific thing we're interested in. We further search for information in archives, libraries, museums, and so on. And once on site, we try to gather the first-hand information from local people. We mostly obtain evidence by conducting our own research on site. And I have to say, it's often difficult, and sometimes I would even say impossible, to obtain any real evidence about a specific mystery or particular thing. So basically, as they say, whatever we discover, we present it as evidence to the people who are interested, or we're essentially giving them what we've found there.
Yes, gathering real, unequivocal, constructive evidence in such research, in such expeditions, is always a challenge due to hundreds of different factors, not forgetting, of course, about the human factor. So it is a challenge, I must admit, unfortunately, which also kind of hinders or slows down, at least, our research. It is a challenge. And my question is actually, what are some other of the biggest challenges that you face during your explorations, your trips?
The biggest challenges? You could say every expedition has its own challenge. Basically, it's always about communication with the locals.
Nebo to jsou výzvy ve smyslu.
Or there can be challenges when diving, or when we flew on a powered paraglider or hang glider and explored the terrain from a bird's eye view.
A zkoumali jsme terén z ptačí perspektivy. No a nebo v Mongolsku, když jsme...
In Mongolia or in Australia, we explored caves or tunnels. So those were the kind of challenges that were the biggest. All of them were interesting. In some aspects, it was really quite daring, but everything turned out well, and I believe we successfully overcame all these challenges.
Well, there's nothing like a successful expedition, right? Where you could actually prove something or at least gather some circumstantial evidence, right? A successful expedition where those challenges are actually conquered is probably a source of great pride, right? And being able to achieve specific things, find out information, etc., etc. But of course, as we know it, right, life acts in mysterious ways, and it doesn't always go according to the plan, right? So would you be able to tell our viewers, our listeners, our subscribers about a time when an expedition actually did not go as planned, right? What did you possibly learn from such an experience?
Já bych řekl to jinak vlastně.
I would actually put it differently. It's about what you think when the expedition isn't going according to plan. In essence, nothing about the research can be planned for an expedition 100% in advance. I mean, things like transportation and accommodation can be planned, but of course, you can't plan what you'll do at the site.
budete dělat, co tam potkáte.
what you'll do, what you'll encounter, what the reactions will be, and so on. Every expedition is like a gamble.
Budete mít štěstí nebo ne, naučilo mě to.
Either you'll have luck or you won't. It taught me to always be prepared for any changes in the plan during an expedition and to know how to handle them.
A oni i někdy ty změny vedou blíž.
And sometimes those changes bring you closer to uncovering a specific mystery that you are going to investigate, because you go there with a certain idea, and that change might bring you closer to that specific uncovering.
Yeah, Dany, actually, you have already said a lot, right, about some of your expeditions, about challenges that you're facing, about preparation, etc., etc. But are you and or your team doing it all by yourself, or maybe yourselves? Do you actually collaborate with other researchers or maybe organizations in your expeditions? And if you do, in what ways? Would you be able to tell us a few words about that, please?
You could say that during all our expeditions, we sometimes collaborate with researchers.
Ale samozřejmě záleží o tom.
But of course, as I already mentioned, it depends on what mystery or research it is. For example, if it's about cryptozoology, we consult experts from the zoo.
Nebo nám pomáhal třeba český.
Or we had help from the Czech writer and entomologist Mr. Jaroslav Mareš, who was very knowledgeable in these fields.
No nebo se obracíme na historiky, snažíme se získat.
Or we consult historians to get a real perspective on the matter, but once on the journey to solve the mystery, we go on our own with our usual expedition crew, relying solely on ourselves.
Let's change the subject a little bit and let's talk about ethics in your work. What I'm interested in, and this is a question that is also on my mind whenever I organized an expedition and also actually when I was in a given country, the question that was in my mind and the question that I would like to ask you now is, are there any ethical considerations that you take into account or you need to take into account when conducting such research? What is your position on that?
Samozřejmě, že
Of course, we consider the ethical aspects. That's a clear and unavoidable matter. The most important thing is to respect the local inhabitants, tribes, or individuals connected to the sacred place.
snažíme se dodržovat její zásady.
We try to follow their restrictions. It makes sense. I mean, if we were to visit a place that is sacred to the locals, we ask them in advance and always respect their decision.
Vždycky respektujeme jejich rozhodnutí.
Sometimes it is difficult, but one must remember that they are at home there and we are visitors. Unfortunately, it has happened to us several times already.
Yes, I actually remember how important it was to respect those rules in Solomon Islands, where I went, as some of our viewers, listeners and subscribers may know. I've been to Solomon Islands twice, in 2008 and then in 2011 again. And I remember clearly how important it was to respect all those rules in Solomon Islands, where there are numerous taboos and also where almost every inch of the land belongs to either some village or some individual. And failure to respect those rules and regulations may actually bring about serious repercussions. So one would think that, in the times when technology is developing so rapidly, what some people call common sense will prevail due to the development of technology over what some other people, or maybe the same people, call a myth, right? And that some of the ethical considerations relating to that will be changed or will have changed, or the locals will have changed them, But unfortunately, it doesn't seem so. In 2011, those questions and those ethical considerations relating to all those rules and regulations were probably the same as 20 or 40 years earlier. So technology is not always actually like a good point of changing the viewpoint. But speaking of which, speaking of technology, I would like to ask you the next question, namely, how has technology changed the way you conduct your research and expeditions, especially in comparison to your father's time?
When Dad and I were chasing mysteries, the technology was then already, you could say, at a high level. But now, it has changed compared to back then, because today, drones can be used, which weren't available when my dad and I were doing it. And compared to the past, better technology for filming is now available. But otherwise, you could say that night vision or diving technology and the like basically remains the same. So other than what I mentioned, I don't see any big difference between the past, when we went with my dad, and the present.
Well, if the technology needed or necessary for such expeditions has not changed that much, then how about the public's perception of the unknown and of all those mysterious phenomena? Do you think this has changed over the years?
I would say that modern technology has greatly influenced the perception of mysterious phenomena in almost every way. It can significantly help in uncovering any of it. Today, it's possible to discover the cause or reason behind a mystery using devices. It is true that in the past, people were more dreamers and could identify more with the mystery or the inexplicable. Today, in the modern era, people have their own opinions on such things. Thanks to modern technology, I must say they are quite skeptical.
And how do you feel about the way media represents your work and the field of mysterious phenomena?
From our expeditions, we write articles and make documentary films for programs that are interested in mysteries. So that's why I think they are well categorized in the media. People who read them or watch our films are interested in what we do. They usually have a similar opinion as we do, or we enjoy talking and communicating with them about these things. So, it seems to me that the way we present our research is, one could say, positive.
And yet, as we know it, even if the results of your research may find its way into the media, and as such, in a way, legitimize those results, so to say, there will always be naysayers, right? It's inevitable. So how do you actually deal with skepticism from the public and from the scientific community regarding your research? Is there any golden rule? Is there anything that we as independent researchers could do or possibly behave in a specific way in relation to that skepticism and that kind of naysaying, so to say?
I've gotten used to people being skeptical about mysterious things. You can't really blame them. I don't mind it. We all have our own opinions after all.
Každý máme svůj názor a ostatně
everyone can think what they want about it. Basically, whenever we return from any expedition, people ask me, "So, did you discover anything?" And I usually have to say, "Well, not yet." And they laugh and say, Well, why do you go there if you don't uncover anything?
Neodhalíš.
A mystery that is solved is no longer a mystery.
Vyřeší, není už záhadou.
And as I already mentioned, for us the main goal is also the journey.
Ten hlavní cíl je ta cesta. A to je to krásné na těch expedicích.
And that's what's beautiful about these expeditions, the adventure we experience, the amazing friendships and lifelong memories.
Kamarádství a zážitky, které jsou vlastně na celý život.
So, how important it is for you to engage with the public and actually educate them about your findings?
No, je příjemné, když
It's nice when the public gets involved and responds to our research and investigations.
náš výzkum a na naše bádání.
We are happy to share the discoveries of our expeditions with the public. In fact, with the public in mind, we make films and write about what we have discovered and experienced during our explorations.
Že seznamujeme s tou danou věcí. Je pravda teda, že málo kdy se podaří nějakou...
We are getting acquainted with the matter in question. It is true, though, that it is rarely possible to solve a mystery in such a way that it provides a complete answer for people or to give them a fully realistic picture. Essentially, they have to form their own opinion based on our research and what we present to them.
Z našich výzkumů a z toho, co my jim tam...
From real things indeed. Mysteries are meant to be mysteries. I already mentioned it here, and it is so.
Je to tak.
Yes, mysteries do have some special thrill about them, right? As they kind of lure us to solve them. If something is a mystery, we inquisitive minds, people of inquisitive minds, we want to solve those mysteries, find out what the reality is, right? Yet, I believe so at least, they cannot forever remain mysteries because curiosity lies in human nature, basically, right? In most cases at least. And I believe that sooner or later, someone will find an answer, right? That's my strong beliefs, my strong conviction, and I think that the reason why there are so many people wanting to find the truth, wanting to do some research on those phenomena, etc., is exactly because of that, to find out some answers. However, someone who is looking for answers would have to be well prepared, of course, and well informed, probably having spent a considerable amount of time doing research prior to any expedition, just as we discussed earlier, right? So, bearing that in mind, what advice would you give to someone interested in following your footsteps? If there is any of our viewers, listeners, subscribers who is dreaming of doing pretty much similar or same stuff as you are doing, what would you advise them?
No, co bych poradil?
Well, what would I advise someone who wants to follow in our footsteps? I think from the perspective of someone who hasn't been on any expedition yet, it's actually an exciting and adventurous journey. Yes, that's true.
Pravda.
But preparing for such an expedition is no simple task.
Není nic jednoduchého.
I would recommend not relying solely on information found or read on the internet. To gather as much information as possible about the specific mystery in advance, and to choose companions for the journey who are known and trustworthy.
Může se na ně spoléhat.
And most importantly, to follow their own judgment and not be discouraged by failure.
Interesting that you should mention failure and discouragement, because as a matter of fact, I was just going to ask you what keeps you motivated to continue exploring and researching despite all those failures and challenges.
No, musím říct, že
I have to say that the adventure of mystery hunting still appeals to me. That's simply the most exciting part of the whole experience.
úplně to nejvíc, který vlastně na tom je, co tam prožíváte.
And another main motivation is to find out the truth about the mystery. That exploration is incredibly thrilling, and that's what I actually found fascinating. It is such a motivation that if I can, I will keep doing this for a long time to come.
V tom pokračovat dál a dál.
Well, Dany, I can only wish you all the best and hope that all circumstances we always be in favor of your quest for the unknown. But let's have the last question of our interview, and we have already discussed the past, the future, the possibilities, the challenges, etc., etc. So let's talk very briefly about the future, and what I would like to know is what do you see as the future of exploration and research into mysterious phenomena? How do you see the future of such research? Do you think it has a chance of becoming a serious scientific discipline, or do you think it will always be the object of ridicule? What is your opinion on that?
That's another interesting question. It's a tough one. Research on mysterious phenomena, which I, or rather we, are interested in, seems like madness to many people. It's more of a hobby for us than a profession. We enjoy the journey of discovery. We look forward to the next expedition and the one after that. That's what draws us to it the most for the future. And where do I see the future of this research? I mostly see it as a way to unwind from today's hectic lifestyle. That's how I would put it.
Well, that's an interesting insight from someone with quite an experience in exploring, well, basically all sorts of mysterious phenomena, beings, places all around the world. What a fascinating lifestyle you lead, Dany. Really, I think there are really some of people listening to us now who might dream or may dream about leading a life like yours, Dany. So, Dany, thank you so much for devoting your time to talk to me and sharing some of your experiences, thoughts, as well as advice with our viewers, listeners, and subscribers.
Thank you for hosting me. See you.
I wish you many happy journeys, Dany, and obviously we will be looking forward both to new expeditions and to new books, to audio recordings or videos from your journeys. Once again, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that in the description of this video, of this interview, I will provide a link to Dany's website. It is all in the Czech language, but you can easily translate into quite many languages, for that matter, using specific internet browsers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that actually concludes the first of, well, hopefully a number of interviews with researchers of the broadly understood unknown from Poland, but also from Central and Eastern Europe. Once again, have a look at Dany's website, and as usual, I invite you to comment, like, and or subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Best regards from me, your host of the Mistura channel.